so today we're going to do our science lesson. This is a science lesson for Wednesday. So we are going to start by first reviewing. We're going to talk about our two biggest groups of animals. Remember, scientists classify all animals. So our two biggest groups are what? What is our two biggest groups? We've been talking about this for a while now. Very good. Vertebrates. And invertebrates. My hand got ahead of my brain again. Okay, so we have vertebrates, which means they have a, what do they have? Very good, they have a backbone. And an invertebrate, remember in means not, so it does, very good, not have a backbone. Okay, so we have our vertebrates and invertebrates, which are the two biggest categories scientists divide animals into. So remember, we've talked about vertebrates have what two other divisions? Very good. Cold-blooded and warm-blooded. Now, before we went to a virtual classroom, we were talking about cold-blooded animals. We talked about cold-blooded vertebrates. So we looked at 3 different categories of cold-blooded vertebrates. Do you remember any of them? Very good. First, we studied fish. Okay, how about another one? Yep. Amphibians. Very good. And the last one that we studied were, excellent, reptiles. Remember, we said that cold-blooded animals, their body temperature is the exact same as the temperature of their surroundings. So if it's 78 degrees, their body temperature is 78 degrees. If it's 25 degrees, their body temperature is 25 degrees, because their body temperature is based on their surroundings, right? Then we talked about warm-blooded, and we learned that warm-blooded animals are animals whose body temperature basically is the same no matter where they go. And we talked about some characteristics to be able to tell if it's warm-blooded. Do you remember what those are? They have to have what or what on their body? Oh, I heard one. So fur, which we also call hair, right? Because fur is just really long hair. And, oh, do you remember? Feathers. Feathers is the other one, okay? So we are going to be studying warm-blooded vertebrates this chapter. We're in chapter 2, and I know you've read a couple of pages in chapter 2, and we're moving on to look specifically at some groups of warm-blooded vertebrates. So the first group of warm-blooded vertebrates that we're going to look at today are birds. Okay, what does it mean to be a bird? Well, obviously we know 2 things, 2 characteristics of a bird. They have to be warm-blooded vertebrates, right? So they have backbones, and their body temperature is basically the same. We know that they're warm-blooded because they have feathers, okay? So the other thing that it means to be a bird is you have 2 wings. It does not mean to be a bird to fly, because there are actually birds that don't fly, such as penguins, ostriches. They don't fly, okay? So you don't have to fly to be a bird, which is probably good for you, because when you fly in an airplane, you might think you're a bird. Oh, okay. The other characteristics of a bird is that they lay eggs. Okay, they have want to check my notes? They have lungs to breathe with, okay? And although, like we talked about, a lot of them fly, that is not actually a requirement to be a bird, because otherwise penguins and ostriches won't be birds, okay? Now, God created the birds quite uniquely. Their bones are really hollow, so that it makes the bird very lightweight. That allows the bird to be able to fly. So our bones are really dense, and that's why we are not as light as a bird, okay? He also gave them the ability to glide. Some birds flap their wings only a couple times and can fly for like hours. It is amazing. Because of the warm air rising, it creates an updraft, which keeps the bird in the air. Okay? Birds come in many various sizes. There's birds so small they actually fit in your palm of your hand. So look at the palm of your hand. A hummingbird can fit in the palm of your hand. Okay? But then there's birds like ostriches that are so big they weigh about the same as a man. And they even stand as tall as a man. So birds come in various sizes. Just like we talked about reptiles, amphibians, they come in various sizes. Remember the frog that you could fit on the tip of your finger, right? And then you have alligators that are really big, okay? So God really gave us a diversity in his creation so that we can enjoy. Birds can be identified through their color, through their size, through their shape, through their song, which we also call their sound, the sound they make. It helps us to identify the birds, okay? Birds lay eggs. The eggs are often camouflaged to protect them from predators, because I don't know if you know this or not, but some animals really like to eat eggs. One of those that we have here on the island is the mongoose. And the mongoose almost made the nene go extinct because nene lay their eggs on the ground where the mongoose are. And so the mongoose would go and they would eat the nene eggs. So they started making reserves and preserves for them so that they were able to keep the nene from going extinct. Okay? So the different color of the egg also can tell you what type of bird will hatch out of it, okay? So if you look in your book on page 28, I want you to pause the video now and to go ahead and read through that page. It just is going to tell you the same kinds of things I just told you, okay? All right, welcome back. I hope that you looked at the chart with the characteristics because you're going to need that a little while later for your workbook page. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the eggs. Remember I told you that different colored eggs indicate what kind of birds they are, but it also camouflages. So there are eggs that are laid on the beach. The plumer, I believe, lays their eggs on the beach and they look like little pebbles on the beach. Here in your book, it also gives you a nest with birds in it, eggs in it. And I know that you're looking at it and going, well, obviously I can see the eggs, Mrs. Johnson. But when they're out in the wild, it's really difficult to see things that are camouflaged, okay? When I lived in Maine, like a moose, literally a giant moose, walked down my driveway and into the woods across the street. And I watched him walk down the driveway and into the woods across the street. And literally, he disappeared in the woods. I could still hear him as he was walking, but I could not see him, which amazed me. So God's given birds eggs a camouflage to protect them from predators like we talked about just a minute ago. Again, please pause the video and read page 29 about birds' eggs. All right, I'm so glad that you read that. Now we're going to also look at page 30, which talks about the size of the birds, which I talked about. And not only does it talk about the size on this page, it also talks about the fact that The male and female birds of a species may not be the same color. In fact, usually they aren't. So a cardinal, a male cardinal, is very bright and red, as you see here on your page. But the female cardinal is more brown, okay? So God made them differently for the purpose of marriage, okay? All right, so please go ahead and read that page, and you're also going to read about their sounds. We talk about how different birds make different sounds. Remember when we read this story about the chickadee in the winter? Yes, the grandfather was feeding the chickadees, remember, and he would go out and they would all land on him and eat out of his hands. Remember that? And the reason a chickadee is called a chickadee is because of the call it makes. The sound of one of their calls, because they make like different ones. They make ones for, oh, we're scared, look out, there's danger. And then they make ones, oh, we're happy, happy, happy. So the happy, happy, happy one, it sounds like he says chickadee dee 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 dee, chickadee dee 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 dee. Okay? You will be having an assignment where you're going to look at different calls the birds make. Okay? You're going to listen to them. You're going to pick out your favorite one. That's not assigned for today, but that will be coming soon. So please check your classroom assignment for that assignment as well. So that is all for today. Please remember, we are studying birds, which are warm-blooded vertebrates. Okay? Finish the reading and go ahead and do your workbook page. And if you have questions, message me. Thanks. Bye.